All right, third time's a charm, and at this point I'm a little tired, but I'm going to try it again anyway. I just kind of wanted to make a little like study along with me video as I study some Greek. This is a method I've been using recently in my Russian study. I found it very helpful, and I thought it would help in Greek as well. Yeah, so what I made notes, and the notes make these cards. Excuse me. I think I'm getting sick on top of it too. So basically, for starters, I just took the phrases and sentences from the videos that I previously uploaded, and I have different sets of cards. So there's a set that goes from the Greek audio to the English text, and so I hear the Greek audio and have to come up with the text, and then that's the majority of them. I have it release most of those immediately, and then the other two, well, one I'm not even using yet, the closed deletion cards, and then the other two I have it just release a very small amount daily, and that's these are both text based, so English text to Greek text and Greek text to English text. So let's go through some of these. So I don't normally translate these out loud, very much intentionally actually, but for the sake of this video, so it's not so boring, I'll try to translate them out loud. But and this actually, it messes me up to do what I really want to do when I translate them out loud. So I don't know if it's just me, maybe this wouldn't be the same for you, but for me, when I translate out loud, I focus a lot more on the English than I do on the Greek. The goal though is that, like, for these cards, they're very basic. Also, my Greek ability is not as high, so I wouldn't expect the exact same experience that I have when I do these in Russian. But in Russian, often I'll know a lot of synonyms for a concept. It doesn't make as much a difference when you're listening, but still, I don't know if that helps. Honestly, I think that might be relevant, but I'm not so sure now that I say it out loud. Basically, the idea, though, is I want to just visualize and think through the thought instead of thinking through the words in English. It's not like I punish myself if the English words come into my head, but I try to let this image, but it's not really a still image. It's more like, so in my previous videos that I made for language learners, I have still images, but sometimes I have like arrows and things moving. If I had the ability to make, visualizations with animations, that would be ideal, and I would do that, but I don't. But I think through, it's not quite a picture. It's more a picture in the sense of like a GIF, but it's not really just a GIF. When I do it in my head, it can be, often it is, but sometimes it's an experience. I might imagine myself doing the thing, or imagine something in front of me doing the thing that's in the sentence, right? And it's almost like you're dreaming through the sentence. That's the way I like to say it. And my Russian ability, like I said, is higher, so I put more emphasis on the next thing I'm about to say. I don't know if I really care yet in Greek because I'm at a much slower ability, but when I do it in Russian, I try to make sure, especially over the repetitions, right? I try to make sure I let my brain build the thought as the words come in. So not necessarily every single word adds something new to the image or the picture or the moment, because sometimes you have to hold on to something until a later part of the sentence before it actually contributes meaning. But basically, each time a new word that comes in, because they come in one at a time, each time one of those contributes new meaning, I try to let that change and develop the thing in my head. And the idea is that I get to do it at real time. It doesn't necessarily happen that often, but it does happen sometimes, and I try, that's like what I want to happen in my head as I'm going through them. I don't want the English words to come into my head, and I don't care if all the English words I have are exactly correct, or if I used a synonym that's less ideal or something like that. Because my goal isn't to translate it perfectly. My goal is to think through the sentence, right? And yeah, anyway, I'm gonna rant more about that if I don't stop myself. But so that's what I try to do. But for the sake of the video, I'm gonna be translating, which will actually mess that up a little bit. So yesterday the father spoke, and this is good. So I'll give it a good marking there, which is going to be 2 hours. Something else, I interrupted it. Something else I do personally, I allow myself unlimited repeats. I saw some other YouTuber who was doing something like this, and they wanted instant. You have to have it right instantly. I can see the benefit for that. Just personally, that's not what I want to develop from this. Maybe if I were to do that, I would want to make a completely separate deck that's like basically words I already know, but I want to be able to rapidly recall them faster. I would probably do something like that. Because for words I don't know at all, for me personally, I feel like it messes up my learning process if I don't sit there and allow my brain unlimited attempts to get it correct. Because like for the Russian ones, which I've been doing the Russian audio cards intensely for many months now, and for those, sometimes I sit on a card for minutes and just repeat it over and over, and it's like it doesn't click, and then all of a sudden bam, it clicks, and I was like, oh yeah, I do know that sentence. And I prefer to accept that and count that correct, because it fits my learning objective for the cards. So anyway, yeah, I have to repeat this one because I interrupted it anyway. The father said to the son, you are not the girl, you are the boy. There's a little bit of a, I don't know, technically incorrect thing there, but I'm more, when I create this particular card, I'm really more caring about the vocabulary words than that my grammatical structure is ideal. So, because I really wanted to say you are a girl and a boy, but the words I chose, the distinction is the article. So anyway. The family is sleeping. Household, maybe? Family. It's good enough. Technically, I think ikoyenia comes, I think there's a house word for house that's similar if I remember right, but I could be wrong. And either way, whether I had said household or family, that's an example where I'm not necessarily trying to get translation level precision when I do these. I'm just trying to say, actually, this is beautiful. Another YouTuber is what said this, which is actually what set me on this thing about, and he said it in a completely different, so I'm taking it away out of context, but it triggered this thought in me. I just asked myself, did I understand it? That's all I care about. I don't care, would I have been able to translate it with the most ideal words and the most ideal phrasing? That's not what I want. And I intentionally don't want that, actually. I would just want to know, did I understand it? And if I feel like I could answer that question yes, then I move on. Even if I didn't understand it, as well as I could have. If there's still a little bit. And it actually works out really good because I found that as I repeat these cards, eventually I do understand them better. So even if I allow myself to move on with like this 80% understanding, not 80% of the word count, but 80% of like the concept, like it was mostly right, but maybe slightly off. It would be truer if I had much longer sentences, which I do in Russian. Sometimes my cards in Russian are 3 sentences long. So there's a word here or there that's not the best, probably wasn't the best choice for how to translate the concept. But as long as I was close enough that I feel comfortable with it, I allow myself to move on. And then as I repeat the cards over and over, it kind of works out that I end up learning it more correct anyway. So it kind of works out that way. So the son is a boy, a child. The son is a child. Technically, that was wrong. I could count that because, like I said, that's my ballpark thing, but I'm going to count that wrong.
Nun ist im Proi.
Now is morning. It's morning now. Now it is morning. Yeah, it's whatever. It's close enough.
Ha pater vlepi ton voion.
The father sees the son.
Ha patero castinine.
The father is not a woman.
Havios vlepi ton patera.
I should be saying what I'm marking, so I pretty much when I'm not saying, I'm marking it good. I usually use the hotkeys, so.
Havios vlepi ton patera.
The son sees, I think, the father.
Havios vlepi ton patera.
The son sees the father. Oh, okay. Here's a good example of a different style of card. So this one's going from English to Greek. So, hemeter vlepi, oi, tentigatera. I think that's right. Hemeter vlepi tentigatera. Hemeter vlepi tentigatera. Okay, that's good. I suppose I could have practiced writing it down, but once again, I prefer one, it's faster to just say it, and ideally, so if I were to take this seriously and be able to put time into it and choose to put time into it, the way I have been in Russian for months and hope to continue to do so. For my Russian deck, I currently have like 1,250 cards that are pulled native audio from YouTube. They're really mismatched for the quality, whether they were at my level, whether I cut it in the correct place or not, and how long they are. They're typically much longer. This would be a rare, very short example. There are some that I think are this short, but they're very rare. The majority of them are much longer. And often that's because of where it's native content, and they often speak for a long time without giving me a decent place to cut the audio. That's part of it. So yeah, but in that I have 1,000. My idealistic goal is 10,000, but it has taken me months to get 1,000. I don't think I'm going to get 10,000. And eventually I don't want to just do audio forever. The Russian cards are only audio. Eventually I have some other things I want to do there, but 5,000 is my goal. That's kind of realistic, but also still a little too ambitious. I would really like to get at least 3,000. I think that is still going to be hard, but I should be able to do that without an excuse. But for Greek, I have I think 50 cards or something right now. So yeah, if I had tons more, that's what I was getting at. The reviews take a long time, and if I were to try to do that in Greek, like for the cards like this, I would not want to write that out by hand because it already just takes way too long. I would just want to speak it personally. I could see, especially for Greek, actually a real strong reason for wanting to write it, because you care a lot about the markings, the accent marks and the spelling and stuff like that. It makes actually a pretty big deal when your goal is to really have a heavy reading focus. Just personally, that's not what I would want to do here. So that's not what I did. That's not what I'm going to do.
He tigater legi Demetri su ukianer su iine.
Okay, yeah, I missed too much of that. The daughter something.
He tigater legi Demetri su ukianer su iine.
The daughter says to the mother, and unfortunately, I know some of these from memory. I don't punish myself for that, like especially with my Russian cards, because I just made the card a little bit ago. I just know that I only have a few cards. It's the daughter says to the mother, and then I heard the word not, so I can actually fill in the rest. I didn't catch the rest of it, but I can fill it in. I count that. I don't have any problem counting that, because what's going to happen is eventually when I have a lot of cards, again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to commit to Greek, but for sure this has been my experience with my Russian cards. I keep plowing through cards. Eventually I have a lot of cards, and several weeks from now when it comes up again for a review, I will not remember at that point the gaps. I won't remember the basic So in this case, I'm remembering the format of the sentence that I chose, but eventually I would forget the format, and then, okay, well, at that point I can learn it better by not just remembering the format and filling in the gaps and just hearing the word not and counting that. So in this case, it should have been like, I think it was the daughter says to the mother, and then it was not, right? So it's going to be, you are not a man, you are a woman. Yeah, and all I actually heard was the words for the daughter says to the mother and the word not. But I was able to fill in the rest. Personally, I'm going to count that. Oh, here's another translation one. The mother is a woman. He meter estin deninen, I think. He meter estin deninen. Pretty sure that's right. Yine. It is yine. That's interesting. I was thinking yune, but I was thinking that can't be the right way to conjugate that. So there's also a little bit of cheating here. I'm not a real beginner. I did study Greek 3 years in college, and even though I haven't done hardly anything with it, it was majority grammar study, so I actually still remember grammar or some. So that's why I was trying to conjugate that, but incorrectly. So he meter estin yine. That one's wrong enough and a significant error that I will mark it wrong, even though sometimes the new can be moved from words and added to words, and I don't remember the grammar rule for that 100%. I don't think yine is one of those words. Estin is one of those words, but I don't think that's true here. And actually, that's a good point to bring up too. Those come up, especially if you're a beginner level, if you're early level, you may not know sometimes whether a card, and especially for production cards. That's why I don't do them for Russian. With Greek, it's a little easier because I actually don't know how to say very much. So the odds are the only way that I could possibly say it is the way that I'm wrote on the card that I'm supposed to say it. Like, so the mother is a woman. I only know one word for mother, and I'm pretty sure I only know one word for woman. So there's only one way I could say this card. And it's also a shorter sentence. When I do the cards in Russian, my ability is much higher. There's often many ways to say the thing. Like if I put an English prompt and then I want to translate it. So for those, I actually haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet. Honestly, I might just be better not using Anki and just writing, like essays or whatever. But in this case, being a beginner and being that these are, I know, less vocabulary and these exactly match the audio ones, I think it's going to be helpful. The other thing is, so maybe this will be my last little point here before I end the demonstration. So my goal with Greek is really just to read, right? So that's why, well, most of my cards are audio cards though, instead of reading cards. And I don't know if this is true for everybody, if this is just true for me, if this is just true for people with my brain type or learning type or whatever. But I find that if I listen to audio, it does something a little different in my brain when I study a language than when I read. And it's really easy for me to kind of translate the text as I read, but I don't really translate as I listen. And so it kind of helps me internalize the language a little better. Maybe because my end goal is reading. For now, I really wanted to do these listening cards. And I do think for me personally, this is where I would want to start. But, I can't predict 6 months from now if I were to put real heavy emphasis on studying Greek. Would I still think that listening is the best at that point? Or would I want to switch more to reading, since that's really my end goal anyway? And I just don't have an answer for that. I don't know. Maybe reading would be better. For sure, the reading cards are easier to make because I don't have to sit there and record the audio. But yeah, production cards, though, are of the least amount of value. They're the hardest to do. They can be the hardest to make depending on your level and how much you have to dance around trying to make sure that you're able to produce the exact sentence that your prompt is requesting. But they're for sure the hardest to make. And you know, I think that anyway, I think it's kind of clear, it's probably self-evident that the listening and reading is more of where I would want my focus to be, and then much less on production, whether that's either speaking or writing. So yeah.